So this is a guide to your toolkit for integer operations. This video will just be adding and subtracting integers, and I'll do a follow-up video for the backside. So adding a positive number equals moving right on the number line. And I'll go ahead and just have you fill in this number line here, making the middle number 0. Then we've got 5, 10, -5, -10. And if you would like to, you can fill in the spaces in between, but it's also okay to just do the 5s. So here, the answer is, well, let's think about this example first before filling in this blank. So an example is -4 plus 6. So we can think of -4 as our starting number. So we're starting right here, and then we're adding positive 6. So we're going to move 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, plus 6, and that lands us at 2. So -4 plus 6 equals 2, and the answer is going to be greater than the starting number because we're adding positive. So adding a negative number equals moving left on the number line, the opposite. The answer is, let's just check with an example first before we assume anything. So I'm going to number my number line here, and this is +10. So if we start at -4, and I'll just label that one, -4 plus -6, so that means that I'm going to be, this is in the hot air balloon terms, like adding 6 sandbags, so it's going to make me go further into the negatives. 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So this is -6, and that gets me to -10. Sometimes if we know that they both have the same sign, negative and negative, then we can just think about, well, we've got 4 and 6, and that's all negatives, so that would be -10. The answer will be less than the starting number if we're adding a negative number. Just like if we were in a hot air balloon and we added sandbags, we'd be going down, which is ultimately less high than we were. Last year you guys used the negative and positive signs, and -4 plus -6 could be thought of in terms of those negatives as well. And if you've got -4 plus -6, you've just got a bunch of negatives, so we know that's always going to be negative. In this example, with the negative signs that you guys used in 6th grade, if we had +6 and we lined those two numbers up, we can think about each of the negative-positive combinations as making 0, because -1 plus 1 equals 0. So each of these kind of cancels each other out, leaving us with overall just 2 positives. So these two images, the number line, and the positive-negative signs, are great anchors to hold on to if you're feeling a little bit confused about, I don't know when the answer will be positive or negative. Subtracting integers. Subtracting a positive number, for example, -4 minus 6. If we're taking away 6, then with the sandbag analogy, this would be taking away 6 puffs of hot air, which is going to make us go down. So overall, this is going to be less than the number you start with, just like if we subtract, like we first learned, the number will be less. So we're going to be moving left on the number line. So if we start, sorry, you guys have to keep numbering this. I should have written that differently. So here's -4, and we subtract +6. That's basically the same as adding -6. So we know we can rewrite, we know we can rewrite -4 plus -6 as just -4 minus 6, and that's what's happening down here. So it's the same as the image above. Start at -4 and then subtract +6, and we're going to go down to -10. If we think about this with the plus minuses from last year, if you start with -4, what you guys did last year was you had to add zeros, enough zeros so that you could take away 6 positives, because if you start with 4 negatives, you don't have any positives. So last year, for this system, you just added zeros because that didn't change the problem at all. This is still a picture of -4. And when I think about taking away 6 positives, then I can see that, yeah, I'm really left with a lot of negatives now. So we can see that as the same as adding 6 negatives. Subtracting a negative number equals moving right on the number line. This is like taking out sandbags. And if we remove sandbags, the effect for our hot air balloon would be to go up. So the answer is greater than the starting number. -4 minus -6. We could rewrite this as -4 plus 6, and that equals +2. So on our number line, we'll show that here. -5, -10, -4, plus 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 gets me to 2. And subtraction and addition are related because subtraction undoes addition. In other words, subtracting a number is the same as adding the opposite of that number. So it's helpful to kind of have mantras for yourself, like subtracting a negative equals adding a positive, or subtracting a positive is the same as adding a negative. And if you kind of repeat those things to yourself, that's another way to just get these rules in your mind and remember. One thing that I see a lot of times a confusion on is this example here where we subtract, actually the one that I see most often confused here is adding a negative. On your skills checks, I saw a lot of people confusing this with multiplying 2 negatives. But when we add 2 negatives, just remember that if you drew that out, you'd have a bunch of negatives. When we multiply negatives, that's like removing groups of sandbags, and that has a positive effect. But just adding negatives is just adding a bunch of sandbags, and you're still going deeper into the negatives. So always kind of thinking about, if I visualize this, what does it make sense that the answer would be? If I'm going on a number line, would I be going further into the negatives, or would I be going towards the positives or towards 0? So try to hold on to an anchor for yourself. Try to visualize the situations when you're confused, and hopefully you'll find that pretty soon these rules stick in your mind and they make sense to you as well. All right, that's the end.